If she had stepped back even once, if she had allowed fear to control her, or jealousy to blind her, the most powerful African queen of the 17th century might never have kept her throne, and an entire kingdom might have been erased from history. Because behind the legendary Queen Njinga, there stood another woman whose influence was so quiet, so strategic, so essential, that without her, the story of Ndongo and Matamba would have ended in tragedy. Her name was Kambu, the sister whose loyalty and intelligence shaped an empire, and whose legacy has been buried beneath the shadow of a more famous queen. This is the forgotten story of the woman who held the kingdom together while everyone else focused on the throne. Kambu grew up in a world of fire. The Portuguese were spreading deeper into Central Africa, enslaving villages, destroying kingdoms, and turning royal families into fugitives. Ndongo, once a powerful kingdom, was fracturing under the pressure. Enemies waited on every border. Allies switched sides for profit. It was a brutal, unforgiving time. And Kambu watched all of this with a silent, profound understanding. She was not raised to rule. That role was always meant for her elder sister Njinga, but she was raised to protect, raised to observe, raised to be the unshakable foundation beneath a crumbling world. Where Njinga was bold, fierce, and unafraid to stand before her enemies, Kambu was steady, calculating, and patient. She was the kind of woman who learned everything before acting. Njinga would become the face of the resistance, a symbol of defiance against the invaders. But Kambu, she became its spine. When their father died, chaos erupted. The succession crisis tore the royal family apart, throwing the kingdom into turmoil. Njinga was forced into exile, hunted and betrayed. And through all of it, Kambu remained right beside her, not as a subordinate, but as a strategist. She was Njinga's most trusted advisor. She counseled Njinga on alliances, helping her navigate the treacherous web of local politics. She spent hours studying Portuguese tactics, identifying their weaknesses and anticipating their moves. She coordinated with ambassadors, soldiers, and spies, building a network of information that was crucial for their survival. And she understood one fundamental truth that Njinga already feared. To survive, they needed each other. The sisters were different in almost every way, but together, they were an unstoppable force. When Njinga finally reclaimed power and later declared herself queen of the neighboring kingdom of Matamba, many believed she had achieved this incredible feat alone, but court insiders knew the truth. They knew that while Njinga was the public face of power, Kambu managed the kingdom's very heartbeat. While Njinga was on the front lines negotiating with foreigners and leading armies, Kambu was at home building domestic unity. She was the one who traveled from village to village, convincing nobles to stay loyal to the queen. She oversaw food distribution, ensuring the people didn't starve during the long years of war. She negotiated peace among rival factions within the kingdom, preventing civil wars before they could even start. She strengthened the army from within, making sure the soldiers were well equipped and their families were cared for. Her influence was subtle, not dramatic or loud. You wouldn't see her giving grand speeches or leading cavalry charges. But her decisions shaped the entire foundation of the state. The warrior queen and the diplomat sister, ruling as one. But then, the unthinkable happened. A powerful faction within the kingdom attempted to undermine Njinga's rule. They were traditionalists who whispered that women should not lead. They spread rumors that Njinga was a tyrant. They tried to turn generals against the queen, hoping to spark a rebellion and seize power for themselves. Njinga, true to her nature, confronted them with force. She was ready to crush the dissent with the power of the throne. But Kambu confronted them with brilliance. She visited the noble families personally, not with soldiers or threats, but with a quiet diplomacy that disarmed even the most arrogant chiefs. She didn't command them. She reasoned with them. She reminded them that their unity was their only chance for survival against the Portuguese. She brokered marriages between rival families, tying them together with bonds of kinship. She offered land deals and trade advantages, giving them a stake in the kingdom's success. She negotiated alliances that couldn't be broken by war. In the end, the rebellion simply dissolved. It wasn't because Njinga crushed it in a bloody battle, but because Kambu had masterfully dismantled it from the inside, piece by piece. This was her genius. She won the battles no one celebrated, and prevented the wars no one ever knew were coming. But Kambu's greatest trial didn't come from her enemies. It came from a test of love and loyalty. In her later years, Njinga made a shocking political move. She converted to Christianity and signed peace agreements with the Portuguese, the very people she had fought for decades. It was a strategic decision, made to secure her legacy and protect her people from endless war. The court was divided. The nobles were suspicious, and many wondered if Njinga, the great warrior queen, had finally grown too tired to rule. They saw peace as a sign of weakness. It was Kambu who stepped forward into the storm. She defended her sister publicly, using her deep connections and respected voice to remind the kingdom that peace did not mean weakness, It meant survival. It was a new strategy for a new era. She supported the reforms, stabilized the difficult transition, and used her incredible influence to keep the traditionalists and the new converts from tearing each other apart. Once again, she saved the kingdom, quietly, from the shadows. Near the end of Njinga's long and storied life, she faced one final fear: who would rule after her? She had fought her entire life to secure the throne, but the question of succession threatened to undo everything she had built. Factions rose again. Ambitious rivals sharpened their daggers. The kingdom held its breath. History tells us that Njinga ruled alone, a singular force of nature. She negotiated with the generals. She calmed the public unrest. She kept the kingdom from tearing itself apart in the vacuum of power. She worked tirelessly to ensure a peaceful transition, even though she herself would never wear the crown. And that is the tragedy of her greatness. Kambu's power was everywhere, yet nowhere is it officially recorded. She built the kingdom. She protected the queen. She stabilized a nation. She held the throne without ever sitting on it. She was the queen history chose to forget, not because she lacked greatness, but because she never demanded recognition for it. When Njinga died, Kambu slipped into obscurity. No armies marched for her. No monuments were built in her honor. No epic songs were written to celebrate her achievements. But the kingdom she held together did not collapse. The people she protected did not fall. The land she stabilized continued to stand. Because Kambu's legacy was not about glory, it was about endurance. She was the quiet storm behind the roaring queen, the strategist behind the warrior, the diplomat behind the rebellion, the woman whose strength never needed a throne to be real. History often crowns the bold, but kingdoms survive because of the wise. And Kambu was the wisest of them all, the forgotten power behind one of Africa's greatest queens. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment your favorite topic you want me to cover next. Your support helps bring these forgotten queens back to life.